Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Evan Carthy from evancarthy.com. This is going to be the week of, let's see, today's Sunday, July 12th. So it's going to cover the market open later today for this week. So, really, the week of July 13th, going to cover S&P 500, Dow Jones, Russell 2000, and the Nasdaq. Give a kind of a top-down approach going from the weekly to the hourly chart, see where we are in the setups and what we're predicting for in the future of the market. Also, I'm going to try to put timestamps on here now to make it easier to view. So you can just click to whichever part in the video you want to view. So here we go. So starting off the S&P 500 right here, we are looking at the hourly chart. And like I said, we're going to use the hourly chart and the weekly chart for these reviews right here. So looking at the hourly chart, we are currently still square dab in the middle of a long setup right here using this pivot point low right down here, this pivot point high right up here. You can see how price came down, and I'll tell you what, let me get out the those little 1 hour charts because those are kind of annoying here. There we go. All right, so price came down, hit the 38%. So that initiated the long setup right there. Of course, that does not mean price is going to go up here and hit this target right up here, but all it does is signify that this is a long setup, because if price continues to move lower down here and blow it out, then I wouldn't consider that a long setup. That'd be invalid. But it did get support down here at the 61.8 level, around 29.38 here in the S&P 500, and price has slowly been working its way up. See, it went up, has consolidated some, went down a little bit, retraced, and now it's starting to go back up over there. So currently the current target we have for this move is going to be around 3,360, right around that area for this move. And so that's what we're looking for that one. And then you can see within this little longer term hourly time frame setup, there's been some other ones starting to get formed as well. If you want to use this one right here. Now this retracement went a little bit deeper, but it's okay. There's using the pivot point low, pivot point high, or swing point high, whatever you want to call it. Price came down again, found support around the 61.8 level, and now has started working its way north of here. So for this current setup right here as well, we are looking at the target of around 32.20, and seeing how on Friday's action right here, where pretty much once we found this kind of bottoming right here, price pretty much went up straight the rest of the day. So it's hitting those last weekly highs. So for this trade, the exit we're looking for is about 32.20, and this continues moving up in this straight up pattern. Then easily on Monday or Tuesday, probably Monday, if it keeps on moving up, there's fall through in the market. It's going to get hit. But one thing I'd like to point out right here, this purple area down here, this box right here that I look at, I use it as a barometer for my trading. I don't use it to trade off of, but it's just good to see if the market's oversold or overbought. It's the money flow index, MFI, and when price is north of this purple area, it means it is overbought. When it's south of it, it means it is oversold. And as you can see in this hourly chart right here, it is very, very overbought for it. So it doesn't mean 100% there's going to be some type of pullback coming, or at least consolidation, but it just hint that there could be one coming sooner than later. So it is something to look forward out as we do begin next week. So that's the hourly chart for the S&P 500. Let's go to the weekly to see where we are in the very long-term time frame for it. So nothing much has really changed in the past couple weeks, using this swing point low that we're at down here, this swing point high. See, prices came back down, hit the 38% to start the long trade, found great support at the 50%, and it has been going up ever since. These past, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 weeks, it's just been in a straight consolidation range right here, down from about 29.50 up to about 32.30. So, will this next week, will we break out of this range that we've been in, that we have been in? Not sure. We'll just have to see what happens for it. But that is where we have been for the past 7 weeks. But we are still square in this very long-term time frame setup right here. Looking for eventually more movement here to the upside. And for this setup, what we are looking at, the target we're looking for, it is around 4,000. think the line we have over here is 4,031.50 to be exact, but around 4,000 for sure is what I'm looking at for this long-term trade. Until short setups start coming in for here, then when people ask, that's what I tell them. I'm like, look, it's look for 4,000 for S&P 500, and I know a lot of people are looking for a big downturn in the market, huge retracement crash coming. Yes, excuse me. Yes, eventually we will get there, but currently we are smack dab in the middle of a very nice long-term setup for it. You can even see down here, the MFI hasn't quite made it to the oversold area. You can see the last couple times it hit to it, had a little bit sell-off right there, went to it again, no sell-off. Uh-oh, that's why we don't trade off of it, because the sell-off isn't guaranteed for it. But then when it went here again, then soon after that's when we had that big crash down once the coronavirus really impacted the global economy right there. But ever since then, once it found support around the 50% Fibonacci retracement area, we have been moving up ever since. And one other thing I always like to note in these is look at this huge gap we have right here in the S&P 500 between about, what's the high for that? The high for that is 3,312 and the low for that one is 3,328. So there's about a 16-point gap right here in the S&P 500, and I am looking for that eventually to get filled. Whether or not we come up and hit this 4,000 area up right there, but again, that is the target I'm looking for. I think we definitely come up and at least get this filled at the bare minimum. And then the last thing I like to look at is the VIX for it. Oh, and also let me move back up right here. There aren't any short setups as well in the long-term S&P 500 trade, so that is very positive for the bulls out there. So until something changes, my long-term prediction is 4,000 here on the S&P 500. Excuse me. It was 4,031 for the S&P 500, especially looking for this gap right here to get filled around 3320-ish, 3328. But let's look at the VIX, because what the VIX does is it measures the inverse relationship to the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 is going up, the VIX is going down, and then vice versa. Now, as you see down here last week, as the S&P 500 started going back up, the VIX started going back down. So the VIX currently is in a short setup right here. I believe it's on the daily chart, so you'll be able to see a little better. Let me scoot over there real quick. Yep, there's the swing point high, swing point low. Price come up, hit the 38% line that initiated it. So the current target for the VIX that we're in is we're looking at about 11 square on the dot right there for the VIX, and it's currently at 27.3. So it still does have room to move down for this move right here. Then one other thing to point out on the VIX, we have this big gap right here. The high for that one is 18.2. The low for that one is 22. So again, looking for this to come up, or excuse me, to come down and get filled, which would more than likely coincide with that gap in the S&P 500 getting filled as well. So we have that gap looking to get filled, plus we have this target down here where if it comes down and hit that, obviously that gap's going to get filled as well. So after those two things happen, then then I would definitely start looking for, see what short setups would happen, or start looking for some consolidation or slowdown in the market. But this target down here could also coincide with 4,000 getting hit in the S&P 500, and definitely when that happens, I'd start, if I have some really nice profits in the stock market, 401k or whatever, I would look at transitioning those, or at least protecting those profits rather than giving those back up. But anyways, that's the S&P 500. Let's go look at now the Dow Jones over here. So let's go here on the hourly chart here real quick. Again, here on the hourly chart for the Dow Jones, sorry about that, using this swing point low down here. Let me give that a little bit more even. There we go. This swing point high right here. See, price came back down, hit the 30%, started the long setup right here. Then found great support on the 61.8 level and has bounced off that very nicely. There was a short setup I was looking at, and you can see here it did come down and get filled using that swing point high, that swing point low. Price came back up, hit nicely, and then let me draw the little target box area right down here. So you have an A, B, C, D move. That's what I just call it, or two-legged move, whatever you want to call it. ABCD, I think, is a move that a lot of people out there recognize a lot better. It's just basically using A, B, C, D. There we go. It came down, hit that target very nicely, made one little leg down lower down here, but they found support and they rocketed way off over there. So that's a real nice setup right there when you have a short setup being completed going into a longer term Fibonacci retracement area going here on the long side. So as you can see, that setup hit it perfectly, made one little push down, which you do see a lot after the target is get hit to flush any weak longs out of there. And look, that ever since that it flushed out, pretty much been a straight shot up ever since. So for that, the Dow Jones, for that move right there, let me draw the target box right up here. We're looking for this trade a target of about 26,697 here on the hourly chart for this Dow Jones move right there. Let's go over to the weekly chart. And then let me remove this, make it a little bit easier to see, and remove that as well. So here on the weekly chart for the Dow Jones, what we're looking at is price came back down, hit the 30%, hit the 50%. So the target we're looking for up here is going to be about 35,909 with the Dow Jones as well. So extremely similar setup, or pretty much the same setup as the one we're looking at for the S&P 500. And even with right here, you still have, excuse me, the gap right here, very similar to the S&P 500 as well. So both for the long-term markets, S&P 500 and Dow Jones, looking for a lot more upside to the market. And again, the target area we're looking for the Dow Jones is about 35,909. Now let's go over to the Russell 2000, go over to the hourly chart. You see right here, using this swing low, this swing high, price came back down, initiated the trade, went up there and fulfilled that setup right there, hit that target. So then what we do is we use that swing point low, take it right up here to that swing point high. And now again, we are currently in another long setup, very similar to the hourly chart, what it looks like for the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. So the target area that we are looking for up here, let me draw the target box for the Russell 2000, is going to be about 1641, right on the nose, give or take, you know, a couple little tenths of a point either way, but about 1641 is the long setup for the Russell 2000. Again, pretty much the same setup as the S&P 500 and also the Dow Jones that we just looked at previously. But as you can see, this has pretty much just been in a consolidation area right here, using that high. Using this low right here, price has just been kind of waffling up and down. You can even think about you know, moving that up a little bit, and that's kind of a little bit better of a support level that's been in, and then maybe use that for the resistance area. But seeing if it's eventually going to break out of this area and continue and shoot up and hit this long up here, the long target at 1641. Let's go over to the weekly chart for it. We're going to get these out of the way, a little bit easier to see for it. As you can see, the Russell 2000 doesn't have as much statistics data to pull from as the other two, because they just started trading these futures again, was it about August 2017, maybe a little bit before that. But currently in the weekly chart, or we can actually go to the daily chart, make it a little bit easier to see. We are currently, again, in a long setup using that swing low. This swing high, you can see that target was just hit a while back, and once it did hit it, we did have a sell-off here in the market, but it did create another long setup that we are in right now. So the current target area that we're looking for this long setup is going to be about 1641 here on the daily chart as well. But also one thing to note here on the daily chart, unlike the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, we do have a short setup that is also in as well. So that's why I'm waiting to see which way it's going to break either way. So the short setup that we're looking at is about 1258 is going to be the target for this one right here. So the bulls and bears are battling it out right now in the Russell 2000. If we go take a look here down at the MFI, you can see price did bounce off of that. You see the line that takes it all the way back down there. This stupid thing gets right in the way. There we go. Get that out of the way. It did bounce off the oversold area and has started working itself a little bit higher over there. But right now the MFI is kind of middle, nowhere land. So just smack dab right in the middle. So obviously if the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones continues to move up, and it's going to pull the Russell 2000 up here with it. But I just wanted to point out that unlike the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000 does have a legitimate short setup that it's in right now, but since the other two markets don't have those and they're trending higher, I'm looking for the Russell 2000 for the long setup to complete and not the short setup. Now, last but not least, moving over to the Dow Jones right here. The Dow Jones is leading all of the markets higher, and yeah, it's the one taking everything right now. So as you can see in the hourly chart, using this swing point low way over here, this swing point high right here, price came back down, hit the 38% line, worked its way up, and then just recently hit the target right here of about 10,641. So that setup is complete right there. So if we use this swing point low, now all we're going to do is continue to drag it up and follow the Nasdaq move higher until price eventually retraces back down and hits the 38% level right there. But as you can see, price has just been moving up higher here on the hourly chart. So all I can do is continue to drag that pivot point higher till we get the retracement down here to the 38% level, which would create the next long setup for the Nasdaq. Now, if this current high holds right here and we get that retracement down at least to the 38% level, then the target area we'd be looking for is about 11,253 here for the Nasdaq. But that would be assuming this pivot point high doesn't go one tick higher for it right there. Now let's go over here to the weekly chart for the Nasdaq. And one thing I would like to point out is the Nasdaq this past week hit its target. It hit it right here in at 10,827 right there. You can see the setup for the Nasdaq was again pretty much the same as the long term for the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones for it right there, where price retraced back down. But instead of it pausing right around here and kind of waffling around, it's gone straight up ever since. And like I said recently, just last week actually, hit its target right on the nose, came out, took out that gap, hit its target. So that one is complete. So now what we're looking for is we take that swing point low, drag it up for that swing point high right there. Now we're just waiting for the price of Nasdaq to eventually retrace, hit at 38%, and that will start the next long setup in the series, moving back up. Now, one thing to note, look at this MFI down here. The last time it hit this oversold level that greatly, that's when we had that big sell-off, and this time it's even higher here on the overbought level for it. Now, again, it doesn't necessarily mean a sell-off is imminent, because look at this right here. Price came up and hit the oversold level and was just basically making fun of it, and price did nothing but continue to go straight up. So that's why you cannot, or I cannot, trade off the MFI, but it is something to look for. But when you have a target being reached plus the MFI being oversold right there, I would not be surprised if we do see either some type of retracement or consolidation here in the upcoming future in the Nasdaq market, and at least give it a chance for the S&P 500 and the S&P 500, Dow Jones, and the Russell 2000 to start catching up with it right now, because the Nasdaq is just blowing all of them out of the water, and it's already reached its target, where the other three have been consolidating a little bit, and we're looking for those to hit their target. So that's the recap right now. The S&P 500, Dow Jones, Russell 2000, and the Nasdaq. Still extremely bullish, especially on the S&P 500, Dow Jones, and Russell 2000. The Nasdaq, I'm waiting for a pullback. I'm more bearish on that market because the long term, as you can see, the long term trade here in the weekly got hit. So I'm looking for eventually there being some type of retracement here in the Nasdaq market that would start the next long setup for the if there's going to be a next leg higher here in the Nasdaq market. And just for a little bonus right here, let's go over to Tesla and look at them real quick. I want to show you something. I did a video of them a while back, and Tesla has come back and hit those targets. I think when I did this video, the price was right around here, and the price target I was looking for was around is either 11.85 for that target, just got blown out of the water, or 12.29, and that target got blown out of the water as well. So the Tesla's following the Nasdaq market, obviously extremely close. You can see how both those setups, there's that first one got hit, no retracement. Second one right there got hit, and there was a little bit of pullback down, but then price has just taken off parabolically. So again, the MFI, it has extremely oversold levels, plus these targets are getting hit. Man, personally, in my own trading account, I'm thinking about doing just one of those trades where it's just kind of considered throwaway money, where if it hits, you're going to make extremely good money off of it. If it doesn't hit, well, then you're going to lose all your money for it. So basically just buying a put option for it and seeing what happens. Not sure I'm going to do that yet, but just with these targets being hit, there being no pullback, and the MFI being so overbought right now. And I apologize if I said oversold at any time when the price is above here. What I meant is overbought. Then I'm looking for eventually a pullback here in the Tesla market. But one of my rules of thumbs I have is you never get in the way of a genius. I do think Elon Musk is a genius out there. But for their stock price, I think there will be some type of pullback here in Tesla as well. So anyways, a little bonus finish out this video. Have a good week. Take care and stay safe. Bye.